I hear babies.
It's outside my window, homie. I don't know.
Do you have your window closed?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's still you can still hear it.
Why
That's
are there
literally just
babies outside?
they're not babies. They're like little kids, dude. You just can't tell that they probably just sound like babies.
I'm pretty sure that's babies.
They're little kids, bro.
I don't think we could record with the babies in the background.
But like I always have stuff in the background.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, I do. I can always hear people outside. But like, hold on. I don't know. Do you want me to try to go in the kitchen?
Maybe.
Okay.
Is there less babies in the kitchen?
Well, I don't know for sure. I'm just fucking annoyed because like I can't help it that there's a bunch of neighbors and they always never shut the fuck up.
Baby, what's the deal? You wanna watch Netflix and chill?
What's up, guys? JP back at you once again, bringing you guys Netflix and Chill Horror Podcast, episode number 22. Joining me is my wonderful co-host, Carly. What's going on, Carly?
Not too much. What's going on with you?
Well, I just ate some DQ,
That's what I hear.
and it was pretty good.
You're on a DQ kick, I see.
I didn't even plan this. Both times I didn't plan it. Yesterday, my coworker went to the bank and then called me and was like, "Hey, I'm going to get some DQ. You want something?" And I was like, "Well, sure." And then today, my cousin was like, "Hey, I'm running to DQ. You want to come?" And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you blew me off.
I didn't blow you off. I just, there was DQ to be
I
eaten.
sat in the cold for 30 minutes and you weren't even there.
Where?
In my dark, scary room, waiting for you to come on and record.
Oh. Well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
And we are reviewing my pick?
Yeah, for like the millionth time.
No, dude, it's your pick next turn.
Yeah, that's what you said all the other times.
No, that's not true. So yeah, my pick is Terrified from the year 2017, getting its official wide release in 2018 as a Shudder exclusive. The film was directed by Damien Rugna, and he is of Argentinian descent. This film is an Argentina film. Argentinian?
Yeah. I guess it would just be Argentina.
Yeah, the film's from Argentina. He wrote the screenplay and did the directing. He worked as an editor as well as a few short films that he directed. He also directed a comedy film, a Argentinian comedy film called You Don't Know Who You're Talking To in 2016. So kind of weird to go from an action adventure comedy to a very traditional horror film in terms of being just a horror film. It doesn't really blend any other genres besides horror. A flat out horror film in Terrified. And this is a movie that when it was added onto Shudder, I thought the cover looked pretty crappy, actually. It has a alternate title of Aterrados, which
Yes.
I believe is the Argentinian way to say it, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, so the film follows, it says IMDb. Go ahead, read it.
When strange events occur in a neighborhood in Buenos Aires, a doctor specializing in the paranormal, her colleague, and an ex-police officer decide to investigate further.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I guess.
yeah, this is when it hit Shudder, I thought the cover was kind of weak and the title sounded very generic.
Yeah. I kept thinking, like you posted about Terrified on your like challenge in 22 shots for 31 days, and I was thinking of Terrifier, and then I didn't even know this existed. Then I looked it up, and I agree. The way the cover looks like some sort of alien type of, I don't know, weird movie. I don't know. It's just kind of blah.
Yeah. So, finally got around to checking it out. I've watched this actually a few weeks ago by this point. I know you watched it twice because we didn't record after we first watched it, and you wanted to get a little bit of a refresher.
I kind of watched it 2.5 times because I watched it the first time, felt like I needed to rewatch it for more details, tried to watch it again, fell asleep halfway through, and then watched it again just this week so we can actually record it.
Yeah, we kind of work opposite schedules right now, so it's kind of hard to find time to actually record. Either you're at work when I'm home, and then also when I'm home it's too late. It's like 11 p.m. when I get home, or it's like 12 when I get home. So yeah, we've had a kind of a hard, and we have different off days most of the time, so it's kind of been a little difficult to find time to record. So that's kind of why we've been a little MIA lately. But I want to do more films because I need to get to a lot of these streaming films before the end of the year. So I would expect probably more regular episodes, this at least for the end of the year here, while we prepare for the end of the year 2018 top 10 show on 22 Shots there, which you'll be a guest on again. And there's some streaming films that have come out that actually look pretty good, so I'm excited to cover those. Terrified, though, it's kind of an interesting movie because, first of all, I was like, when I picked it, I didn't know that it was, in Spanish. And I was like, God dang it, as soon as I started watching it, because...
Yeah, me too.
I've just been very subtitled out lately. Like, I don't feel like watching things with subtitles. Because, honestly, I'm movied out in general. Yeah. I've watched, I think I'm at, like, 340 for the year, which is, like, entire... I think I actually passed my total watches of, like, 330 something last year. So, and there's still, like, a month and a half left. So I'm probably going to hit well over 365, which was always... I wanted to do it one time, but now that I've done it, I have no desire to do it again. Like, I was looking at Moods, and he watched like 530. I'm like, how could you... like, I can't even fathom watching an additional 200 movies. You know what I mean?
I like, it's not even about having the time. I probably could have the time to do all that if I really tried, but I wouldn't want to. I would be so burnt out at that point.
It's one of those things where, like, I'm burnt out, so, like, I watch one thing, and then, like, by the time I get to talk about that one thing, I've had to watch, like, 5 other things. So everything, like, my memory is starting to fade with films, and it's been difficult. So, especially with subtitles, like, I'm like, geez, now I gotta really pay attention.
And... that, like, I don't know if you had this problem with this film or if it was just me, but I actually had trouble kind of reading the subtitles because they were, I don't know, they were like yellow, and I felt like they blended in with the background too much at times. So that's kind of one of the, I guess, tiny complaints I have with this film right off the bat, is I kind of had trouble keeping up and reading them at times, just at certain times, though.
Yeah, see, I didn't have that problem at all. I think I prefer yellow subtitles to the white ones.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just rough.
I think yellow ones usually fit for me better, but... So, how does this film open up?
Well, you have this, I guess, husband and wife, and they are just in their home, and the wife is, like, hearing some noises coming from her sink or something like that, and then the husband's all like, oh, what the heck, and all that, and then... things go on, and they kind of go to bed for the night, and then the husband's hearing some strange banking noises and thinks it is the neighbors working on their house or something, and then, you find out is actually something very spooky.
And what is it?
His wife is like hovering over the bathtub and swinging back and forth, hitting her head off the wall, and it's very, very bloody and violent.
Yeah, I really liked that scene for an opening. I felt like they went a little bit overboard with the like smacking against the wall thing. I feel like it kind of made it seem a little over the top for a second there. I liked what they were doing. It reminded me of like Nightmare on Elm Street with Tina's death, of course, where you're seeing this and you're like, how the hell? Like, I immediately think is like, how the hell are you going to explain this? You know what I mean? Like, she's super dead right now and you're kind of covered in her blood. And yeah, it's probably going to look like you murdered her to death.
I thought it was very spooky visually though when he first walks in and sees that.
Yeah. That's actually because I started watching it. I didn't pick this one directly until I like clicked on it, and then I started watching it, and then I sent you a message and I was like, hey, I picked this. And the reason that I did is because I thought that scene was pretty spooky, and I thought you would dig it. So
yeah,
I sent it on over. And I'll tell you what, this movie, I think that my biggest problem was I was having a little bit hard of a time following it, which is mainly a thing that happens to me with foreign films, because I feel like nobody's voices are like that distinct, and because it's in another language, I lose track of things a little bit, and I was having a little bit of a hard time following it at first. But one thing that I think that this movie does absolutely great is it has like such haunting imagery.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. That's kind of why I wanted to rewatch it a second time, because sometimes
was it easier to follow on the second time?
Honestly, I still feel like I'm a little confused, and I even kind of read people's reviews because, you know, people give reviews and they give synopsises and things like that, and that kind of helped me piece it together a little more. But yeah, the story certain characters I was getting a little mixed up, as well as just the storyline, like how it goes from the beginning and then what you kind of get in the middle section. I was confused on how that went together, but then when I read up on it, I was like, oh.
Fill in some details for me. So we follow that guy.
Yeah. And then
what happens to him?
See, that's what I'm a little confused about. I know you get that beginning part with his wife, and then you get this other spooky thing that's kind of going on, and then the guy kind of gets into trouble because of the events that took place. But when he's being questioned and all that, you're kind of going into a new story on events that also happened in that neighborhood. It's supposed to be a series of events that took place like on that block or in that neighborhood or whatever that could possibly be linked together. So that's what I was confused on at first, how the stuff you get later with there's kind of this like little kid story, and then the story at the beginning didn't seem like it linked up well, but then I realized it was just supposed to be a bunch of paranormal activity going on in the neighborhood. But with the guy, I don't even think it actually goes back to him, if I'm not mistaken.
He wasn't like arrested though, right?
I don't think so, but like I said, I don't think he was there. I think those investigators were trying to be like, oh,
so
well, the story.
Were we supposed to take it that they already had known stuff was going on? Like, that's what I was wondering, if like some of this stuff happened before that guy's incident, so they were already aware of like this stuff, so they didn't go hard on him because they figured it was probably this paranormal stuff.
That is actually what happened at the beginning when they're questioning him. They kind of say a similar story happened. I forget how long ago, and that's when you get into that story with the child, as well as the investigators going into that house and trying to prove some stuff. So I think that was supposed to be happening in the past.
Okay, so then what's up with the guy with the camera and the thing coming out of his closet or under his bed or whatever? Who was that?
Was that?
I couldn't tell if it was the original guy.
That's what I thought.
Or
it was
it was
the same
a different
guy.
person.
You know, I thought it was the same guy with the wife, but that actually I don't think makes sense. I think that was supposed to be a third story, I guess you could say, a third like paranormal story.
Which would make sense, because then you would get that if you could tell right away that like they should have made it a woman or something. That
The
second
guys
person.
there's like 3 guys in this movie that look exactly the same. That's that's the problem.
But if it was a woman, that second thing that happens with them sleeping and the camera on, if there was a second, if that was a girl, it would make it more of like, oh, I see what's going on. It's showing us different stories that are happening in this area.
Yeah, I completely agree because you saying that just now made me kind of realize, oh, that was probably a different story going on in the area since they're trying to make.
That's how I took it, but I couldn't remember what the first guy looked like. I was like, is this him or?
Yeah, I was thinking it was the same guy until you just brought that up. But the thing with, I think the plot of the story is almost sort of not anthology themed, but like, showing you different events that took place in the neighborhood. So I think that is a totally different dude and a totally different spook.
Which leads us to like one of the next scenes, which is probably the best, in my opinion, the best scene in the movie. And that's where one of the detectives it says ex-police officer, so I didn't know if that was... See, that seems weird because I thought he was a police officer. Unless it's a different person that the synopsis is talking about. But when they go up to that woman's house and they go into the room and her dead son, who had recently died, is sitting at the table.
Yeah, that's really disturbing.
And they did like a really swell job on the makeup effects with that kid. He reminds you of like what like a Pet Cemetery kid like should look like somebody who's been buried, dug up. Like he really does look like somebody who was embalmed, buried, and dug back up and posed on in the kitchen. Like, yeah. Wow, man. And then there's like these really, because I think that like this movie has really strong aspects to it. Like when they're sitting there talking and he's like in the background, you're just like waiting for something to happen. Like that scene is like very suspenseful, and you're getting like, you're like kind of on the edge of your seat. Like, okay, is this thing gonna move or something?
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking like, okay, he's going to open his eyes or just twitch a little bit. It's very well shot.
Yeah, and then they're just sitting there and the milk gets dumped over. Mm-hmm. That's when you're like, I think we need to get the F out of here immediately.
Yeah, it's very well done. But I will say, like, after all that with the kid and when they start actually going about investigating and things like that, I kind of get a little bit bored with it and not as much spooky stuff is happening, in my opinion. And then even at the end, when you get a few more scares, they're just not as effective to me as the earlier on stuff was. Like, it doesn't really give me the creeps or anything like that. So I would say probably the last half of the movie for me was a little bit weak.
Yeah, I actually agree, where I think the success in this movie is like segmented. Like there are great segments to this film, which is funny because we kind of said that it was going for like almost an anthology, like story wise, like telling different stories from this town, but not really. It's not. It's more seamless than that. But
it's almost too seamless.
Yeah, but I think one of the things about this film is it's these segments, like certain sections of the film are like borderline brilliant, but it doesn't feel like a cohesive work. To me, it feels as if it's a little rough around the edges. There were great ideas and great visual, especially like scary visuals and just like stuff that's going to make you uncomfortable and unnerved. And those are great, but they're not weaved in right with the story to make the whole movie a great movie. Instead, you just have like these great moments in a pretty okay movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would 100% agree, honestly. I mean, I thought maybe on second watch I would feel a little bit different, and as I said, I did understand it a little bit more, but I feel like it's just kind of too confusing for what it's trying to be. I mean, it's just a creepy movie, and I feel like there's not a whole lot of story going on for it to deserve to be overly confusing like that, but um, yeah, the beginning half and the middly part I would say is very promising, and then the ending just kind of falls off a little for me, and then very ending scene I will say made me jump, but that's about it. I mean, I feel like it has potential. I feel like a lot of people probably would enjoy this one just for the spook factor alone, so I would recommend it. Would it make top tens? Possibly, possibly not. I think it just depends on how people view it.
I think that if somebody is like really affected by the scares, they're probably going to be willing to forgive a lot of aspects of this film because of the fact that it affected them so greatly with the scares. So I could see this making some. I definitely know this is going to make some people's lists, because I just know that this movie's going to hit with a few people.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, anything else that you liked?
Honestly, not like it was really just the creepiness that I enjoyed mainly. Characters I didn't feel were overly memorable or even easy to tell apart, so I can't really
Yeah.
say anything too positive on them. I mean, I think the mother character you get in this, like the mom of the boy who comes back, she does a pretty good job, and I think everyone's pretty solid with their roles. It's just there's not a whole lot of, I guess, substance behind these characters to where I'd say they really stood out. So
Yeah,
I mainly just liked it for being simple and creepy.
I do remember, this just came back to me. They go into what could be causing this. Do you remember that part?
I'm not sure. Like what portion was it?
I don't remember which portion it was. I just remember that the detectives or whatever, I believe they start talking about what could be causing it. I think they mentioned like the water.
Hmm.
Do you remember that at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
I feel like the film doesn't really tie up a lot of like what you expect for, like you expect a film like this to have like a little bit more traditional of a ghost story narrative, or like a demonic presence narrative where it has something to do with like, oh, we buried we never moved, you moved the gravestones but you left the bodies, like that stuff. Or like, built on an ancient Indian burial ground, which is exactly the same thing, I guess. But, or like, they don't use that graveyard anymore because the ground is soured, but then they build all these houses on top of it. Or like, like a little girl drowned in the bottom of a well, and now all this spooky shit is happening because she was, locked in this well, and we need to, bury her remains. Or something,
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a way to kind of do these movies, like the Amityville movie, like, and this one just kind of doesn't really, which is good to not follow like this specific tropes, but I think you kind of expect something similar to that, to where it's like, oh, this is why this is happening, and this is how we stop it, type thing. Or if you're not going to go in that territory, at least like kind of have like a little bit more of a, I guess honestly just not as stupid of a film to follow.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I don't know. I almost feel like it should have been, like I said, it feels like a simple, scary film, but then I almost feel like it wraps up, or it doesn't wrap up, rather. It just kind of ends. I don't know. When it ended, I was like, really, was that was it? I felt like nothing was really answered for me or anything like that. So it almost felt like there needed to be just a little bit more to tie up at least one or two loose ends there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that at the end of the day, there's some stuff we liked, some stuff that we didn't like. It's not a bad first effort in horror films for Mr. Damien Rugna. I would be interested, like, if I see he made another film, I would be interested in seeing what it was about. But this one wasn't a home run. It had good things to it, but it kind of fell short for me a little bit. I still think it's a pretty solid movie, though.
Yeah, me too.
So, with that said, scary scenes. I mean, the one or two great scares in this movie automatically make it above average to me. And then I think that, you know, the way that some of the practicals were and things like that, I really appreciate that. So I think that, honestly, I think I'm going to give it a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a 7 quality movie.
Yeah, yeah, we're pretty much on the same page with this one. I would say definitely check it out if you have not yet. Of course, it is on Shudder, and I think it's a good one just to put on late at night with all the lights off and enjoy alone, because it's got some pretty creepy moments that might actually genuinely scare you. So for that alone, I really appreciate it. I like horror movies that are actually creepy and can effectively scare me, and that does do it. Not as much as other films have, but there are just a few scenes in this that do kind of give me the chills. So I would give this one like a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, cool. And, you know, while we're here, because this was a really short review, there just wasn't much to say about this one, I felt, and honestly, my memory's kind of shot on it. But, you know, we watched it, and I wanted to at least provide some dialogue on the film since we did watch it. But, you know, all the episodes can't have, you know, a great, super in-depth review, because they're just not much
just
to talk
depends.
about.
Yeah, it just depends on the film, really. I mean, I watched it recently, and even my memory is just like fried on it because it's just kind of confusing. So yeah.
So anyway, while we're here, I did want to just talk about one other thing, since we didn't get to talk too much about this movie. But one of the things that I've been watching on streaming, first of all, two things. First of all, I did watch the entire season 2 of Making a Murderer, which the first season, I believe, came out in 2015, so it's been 3 years since that came out, and they released the second half. So this basically chronicles everything that's happened since the first season was released. And watching it, it was good. Definitely not as good as the first one, but I don't see how you could even live up to the first one, because there was so much more time between, you know, the story's start and when the first documentary was made. So many more years versus just 3 years for the follow-up. And also, they probably had more time to make it more cliffhangery per each episode, which every episode of Making a Murderer was like super cliffhanger ish. And then the second season is more of just like, here's everything that happened, here's the information we're presenting to you, and boom. So one thing that I like about this particular season is that we are introduced to Kathleen Zellner or something. I forget her name. But she's basically Stephen Avery's post-conviction lawyer. And briefly, if you don't know what this is about, it is about the murder of Teresa Halbach that was allegedly committed by Stephen Avery and his nephew Brandon Dassey. Stephen Avery is an interesting person because he was actually arrested for the rape of a woman back in the 90s, where he was later exonerated and released after new DNA evidence. So it's very interesting that he was involved in a murder and once again says that he's innocent, but he was convicted of the murder of Teresa Halbach and I believe sentenced to life without parole. So now they're trying to get the case reopened because they keep finding new evidence that maybe suggests that somebody else murdered Teresa Halbach. Very, very amazing show we've talked about it on the show before, but the first season, very good. This season we follow Kathleen Zellner, the post-conviction lawyer, and all of her new evidence. And I just gotta say, she is absolutely amazing at her job because she's just like doing everything. She's testing everything. She's just doing everything. And I do think that she attached herself to this case because of the high profile. But whatever, that doesn't matter. She's still trying to prove he's innocent. And she's very, very good at what she's doing. She pulls out like tons of new evidence, like pretty much could the biggest. Here's the thing with Making a Murderer, right? Like to this day, I don't know if Stephen Avery killed Teresa Halbach, but I do know, and I do strongly believe that the way that the defense or the prosecution said that he did it is probably extremely unlikely, which then is a huge problem with the case, because if you can't prove how Stephen Avery killed her, then there's too many questions to, beyond a reasonable doubt that he's guilty. It's definitely not beyond a reasonable doubt at that point. So I would say that he's innocent at that point, just based on the information that I'm presented, especially after this Kathleen woman goes through and proves that one of the biggest things in the prosecution was that he shot Teresa Halbach in the garage because they found a bullet in the garage, but there is no she took the bullet and tested it for like bone matter or something like that, and there was none of that on there, and it's like a huge percentage that there would be, and all this other stuff. She also shed some light on other people that it could be. Like, for example, Brandon Dassey's brother, Bobby Dassey, has like a disgusting amount of like violent porn that was found on his computer. Like, Google searches of like dead women and like all this stuff, which doesn't necessarily mean that you're a murderer. But it's definitely interesting. And also, I do believe 100% that Brandon Dassey's confession was 100% coerced. And when you see this play out, because you're following him a lot too, it is absolutely ridiculous. Like, I got so mad watching season 2 because you see this just bullshit when it comes to these judges arguing that he wasn't coerced when it is so obvious that he was coerced. It is like one of the most frustrating things ever. I don't know how a normal human being can watch that and not see that he's clearly doesn't know what happened and is just telling people what they want to hear after being locked inside of a damn room for hours. And clearly he has a low IQ as well. But I thought it was good. I don't think they're going to do another one. I just don't think that there's enough to make a whole series on, a whole nother season of the show on. I don't really know what's going to happen with these two, but it is absolutely riveting television. I was hooked again. I finished the whole second season in about 2 days just because I was obsessed with it again. Didn't have the punch of the first season, but it was still very interesting. And honestly, by the end of it, I just felt like nothing got solved. And it's so frustrating because this isn't a scripted television show. This is a real life situation that is current and presently happening right now. I just saw that Kathleen Zellner released a bunch more information like 2 days ago about more new evidence that she found in the case. Like tons of like really good evidence, it seems like. So Who knows? I'm gonna follow that case, as it develops more, even without the Netflix series, because it's just fascinating to me. And I know you tried watching it, but for whatever reason in your dumb brain, you couldn't get into it.
Or are you talking to me? I thought this became a solo cast.
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know, dude. I just couldn't get into it.
I just don't know how, but I'm not going to get into that debate. I don't get
enthralled.
This is one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how somebody couldn't like it.
Okay, and also, I do have trouble with TV shows. I get antsy and feel like I should be watching a movie, and I don't know. Just with that show, it was depressing to me. And I already had this argument with you once back in the day on our pod, so we don't have to debate about it again, but maybe one day I will return to it.
Yeah. So that was great. Absolutely was hooked again. If you've never seen Making a Murderer, it's just fascinating. You gotta check it out.
So did you enjoy this season more or less or the same as the first one?
I mean, way less, because the first one is lightning in a bottle. It is just magic, the way that all came together. The second one is just like I said, a follow-up. It's just like, here's all the information that happened since, and it's just more of like it's not done in as dramatic of a fashion, but it was still, for people who are invested in the story of what's going on with these two, it definitely was intriguing. I think one of the things about it that frustrate me so much is I don't know anything when it comes to what really happened, because everything that the prosecution said just feels like there's no way it happened like that. And then anything that Kathleen or Stephen Avery or anybody else theories that they come up with it, how it could have happened, I also think that feels very unlikely. So it's one of those things where it's like, you just want to know what happened and just see if anybody was close to what actually happened, because it's so mysterious on what happened to this, poor young woman. And I just don't think that if he did it, he did not do it like that. So it's just, I wish somebody would just fucking confess, man.
Yeah.
So we get this damn thing over with. But the other thing that I started watching too on Netflix was, I know Haunting of Hill House came out and everybody was raving about that, but instead of watching what all the normal people are watching, I'm like, hey, there's another new series that came out in October. Let me check this one out instead. And it is the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah.
And
did you watch the whole thing?
No.
Okay.
No. I watched 2 episodes.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. So
I thought you watched the whole. You made it seem like you watched all of it.
Well, I was going to, and then I was like, you know what? I actually really need to watch movies right now, so I'm gonna have to put it on the back burner. But I will say this: I absolutely loved the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, I thought they were actually pretty interesting, but I felt the same because they're hour-long episodes, and that was another instance where I felt like I should be watching 2018 movies. But I would return to it because it's very interesting to do sort of a reboot of this old comedy show, and I believe it was a cartoon as well once, and to make it kind of more dark and scary, but also have comedy in it and things like that. Yeah,
the first episode follows Sabrina, and we might actually review this on the show at one point. But the first episode follows this girl Sabrina who lives with her aunts, who's basically a witch. Her aunts are witches. Her parent, she's a half witch. And whenever you turn a certain age, you have to basically become a full witch, and doing that you basically offer up yourself to Lucifer or Satan or whoever. And that was very dark right away. I'm like, whoa. And they kind of beat around the bush about it, where they basically say you're not really going to hell when this is over, but you're like Satan looks out for his boys. You know what I mean?
You're like spared from burning forever.
Yeah,
you're
because
still kind of his homie. So
yeah, he's like he doesn't forget the people that rode with him during all this. So like, but you're also ride or die with the devil once you commit. Like, there's no getting out of it. So like, she has to decide whether she wants to do this, and if she does, then she has to go to like a different academy, and she's like has to lose all her friends and stuff. And she's like balls deep in her high school life, where she's all like, oh, I love my boyfriend, and oh, I love my best friends, and oh, I gotta help them. And so she's all like super into that teenage life. And meanwhile, the witch life comes a knockin', and it's like honestly, it's very similar to like a gang movie, like where it's like on one hand they want to do the right things and stuff, but then their homies come knocking, and it's like, I gotta roll with the homies. She's like, I normally wouldn't do this, but tonight I'm with the homies.
Yeah, that's what she was like.
And the witches are the homies, so she's all like, man, I gotta roll with the homies. And they're like, blood in, blood out, Sabrina. And she's like, but I got all these friends over here.
It's like the homies versus the homies, basically.
Yeah. It's like your street homies versus your like hometown homies.
Yeah.
But so I think that what I liked about it so much is just the darkness of it. Like, it is very dark, and it has like, they show like the devil and stuff, and he's like all like a goat looking, and it's cool, dude.
Yeah, there's some actually creepy scenes within just those first 2 episodes that I enjoyed, and I like the girl who plays Sabrina as well. I find I forget what her name is. She played in the remake of Flowers in the Attic and the Blackcoat's Daughter, though. Do you know what's her name?
The Blackcoat's Daughter.
Something.
Who was she
Shipka.
in the Blackcoat's Daughter?
I forget what her name. Kat, is that it? The one, not Emma Roberts, but the younger version of her.
Huh.
She's the main character in the Black.
Yeah.
You really didn't realize?
No, I didn't realize it, but yeah, you're talking about what the hell's her name? Her name is...
Her last name's Shipka. That's all I know. I forget
Kiernan Ship.
Yeah,
Shipka.
Kiernan. Yeah, and she also played in the Lifetime remake of Flowers in the Attic, which wasn't... I know I said that, but it wasn't it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, as I do like the original film, and no one knows much about that film, so I just wanted to
seen it.
again. No one talks about it, and I consider it a psychological horror movie. It's actually pretty good, disturbing. So
yeah, but
anyway,
I really liked Sabrina. I'm definitely going to return to it after 2018 is over, when I have more time, and we'll probably talk about it more on this show. Do like a full episode on it after we finish. But right now we got to get back to movies, because like it is crunch time when it comes to 2018 movies.
Yeah, honestly, I love preparing for making these top 10 lists now for the end of the year, but then I also love when the new year rolls around, because it's like you're being reborn, and you can watch whatever the hell you want for the first freaking 6 months of the year or so, because you have nothing really to worry about.
That's like with the podcast, man. Like, I was thinking about it, like this week I had to watch 4 movies for the podcast, and I'm like, man, I don't even feel like watching anything else besides these 4 movies. So like, then I'm like, I'll just get to the 2018 movies next week. But then it's like, oh, next week you didn't do any of what we watched Patreon picks, so you have to watch 6 movies next week. So 3 for Patreon and then 3 for the regular show. So it's like, damn it, now I'm not going to watch any 2018 movies next week either. So like, I'm just like, where am I going to have time for these?
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have. If I were you, I don't know how I would end up squeezing all that in. So
it's hard, dude. But like the final 2 weeks, I'm watching like literally like 6 movies a day for like 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
But
I feel
that's the life of a podcaster, which you're a podcaster now, so you should join the life.
I'm a podcaster here and there.
Yeah. So anyway, what are we doing next episode? Because it's your pick.
We are doing Revenge, which is also on Shudder, and I actually already watched it, so better get on that.
Revenge. See, I kept getting that one confused with the other one that's on Shudder. What's it called?
Prevenge?
No.
Is there another one similar to it? I don't know.
Yeah, what is it, dude? Come on.
Did we watch it?
No, dude.
Is it an
It came out like the
exclusive?
same time, yeah.
Tragedy Girls? I don't think
No,
that's on there
not
anymore,
on
though.
there.
Yeah, it was for a minute, I think, but I honestly, I'm not too sure. Please don't be mad at me. I just don't know.
Oh, come on. Find out what it is.
Downrange?
That's the one. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
That was my pick like 3 episodes ago whenever you rudely took over and said that your pick was going to be the next 20 picks. But I decided that I really wanted to see Revenge. But I think we should do Downrange as well because that's another one I would like to get to.
All right. Maybe I'll pick it after that.
All right.
Mandy's coming out on there too, I think.
Oh, good, because I have to watch that one.
So
I was
do
thinking
I.
of buying. I was thinking of buying it at Walmart, but if it's going to come out, I'll just wait.
Yeah. You know what else is coming to there that we
What?
could do? Summer of '84.
That's already on there.
Oh, is it? We could do
Yeah.
that because we've both watched that already.
Yeah,
Um.
we could.
All right, so we're doing Revenge. Revenge, right?
Yeah.
We're doing Revenge next week, and Revenge is a 2018 film, and I don't know what it's about. I was gonna read the synopsis, but this synopsis is extremely long.
I'll simplify it for you. It is a rape revenge film, everybody.
Nice. They should have
Yeah.
called it Rape Revenge.
Oh my god, yeah.
All right, we're getting the hell out of here. Peace out. I'm JP. This is Carly.
I am Carly, yes.
And
Peace.
we will see you next time back on the couch.
Yeah.